My sister-in-law is a vile person. My husband and the rest of his family don't speak to her, or so I thought. I was having a lovely day some time ago when a friend suddenly sent me a screenshot. It was a picture of someone on Twitter saying horrible things about my children, toddler and kindergartner. I was horrified because I don't put photos of them on social media. My friend explained that person A, who insulted my kids, was arguing with person B, whose header was a picture of my children. Person A assumed they were person B's kids and insulted them as a comeback. My friend said she was sure I wasn't person B because they had some weird things in their bio and tweet history that I would never say or believe in. I informed my husband and we freaked out trying to figure out who person B was and why they had a picture of our children. I then remembered that I sent that picture of the kids to my mother-in-law, and I even checked our texts to make sure. Mother-in-law has been staying with us for a week, so we waited for her to come home from wherever, and then my husband explained what happened. She also seemed concerned until my husband asked if she sent that picture to anyone else. She immediately went red in the face and started avoiding eye contact and everything. She then said she sent it to my sister-in-law. In fact, she's been sending her several pictures of my children. I can't even lie, I saw red. It made a lot of sense because they sounded just like her after looking through person B's account. Mother-in-law apologized and said she was just trying to make her daughter feel less isolated. But I was so furious. I told my mother-in-law that all I'm hearing from her is utter BS, and she doesn't have to worry about her poor daughter being isolated because she can pack up her crap and go live with her. Mother-in-law immediately apologized and said she didn't think sister-in-law would save the pictures. She swore never to do it again and even deleted the images of my children off her phone. I couldn't bring myself to care. The next day, while she was leaving, she said I was being too harsh. I told her to stop talking to me. My husband is entirely on board with this, but he's busy with his sister and making sure she changes her Twitter header. It did end up being her. I can't explain the amount of rage I still feel, but mother-in-law did seem very apologetic. My father-in-law, her ex-husband, even reached out to me saying that my anger was valid, but that I shouldn't kick her out because I'd left her in a very tough spot, especially since she had zero bad intentions. I'm afraid my anger is blinding me and my husband, so I'm just curious. Am I the idiot? Edit, my mother-in-law was staying with us while her apartment was fixed. Not the idiot. Of course she didn't mean harm. Give me a break. Mother-in-law messed around and found out. She can go live with her daughter. You have every right to protect your children. How much has she been sharing with the sister-in-law that you don't know about? Would she ever have admitted to it if you hadn't caught her? It's easier to ask forgiveness than permission. She had bad intentions. She knew this was something you would disapprove of, so she didn't ask and she did it anyway. Agree. She was sorry she got caught. She feels sorry for herself that she has to face consequences. She's not sorry for what she did or how it impacted you and your husband and children. She thinks you're being harsh by cutting contact with sister-in-law, and she's undermining your boundaries and privacy by going behind your back to keep an open communication channel that you believed closed. She tried to appeal to your sympathy about sister-in-law's feelings of isolation. That's her doubling down that sister-in-law deserves information and communication. That's her effectively saying she'll keep doing it or resume doing it when she thinks she can get away with it again. And feel free to tell the flying monkeys, like your father-in-law, coming at you on her behalf, to back off if they don't want to be cut off as well. The road to you-know-where is paved with good intentions. It doesn't matter what her intentions were, she did wrong. She's demonstrated she cannot hold boundaries, so if you rug sweep this, she will do it again. She's lucky all you did was kick her out and not make the drama any worse. My boyfriend and I have been dating for 11 months. In fact, our 1-year anniversary is this coming Sunday. So my boyfriend thought cooking for my parents would be a cool idea. He wants to make fish tacos. My brother would also have to come because my parents don't like leaving him home alone. And my brother has very particular food habits. He's an extremely picky eater, and he will only eat what he likes, which isn't a lot. I told my boyfriend he would have to make chicken strips on the side, and he said no. He stated he wouldn't accommodate my brother. He said he invited my parents, not my brother, even though he knew my parents wouldn't leave my brother home alone. Then he said my brother needs to grow up and act like an adult, and that my parents babied him his whole life, and that's why he's the way he is. I said there was nothing wrong with my brother, but he laughed and rolled his eyes. He said my brother is a grown adult, should have a job, and should stop relying on my parents, and that he can't stand picky eaters, so he will not make anything for my brother or allow them to bring anything for him. I told him he was unreasonable and was being a jerk. He looked at me and said to get used to it because life won't hold my brother's hand forever. Now my boyfriend ignores me and plays games on his computer instead of talking to me. Maybe I might have gone too far calling him a jerk. Was I an idiot here? Edit, brother is 22 years old. He's not being diagnosed with any disorders. Even though he knew my parents wouldn't leave my brother home alone. LOL, what? Your brother's 22, not 5. You're just as much an enabler as your parents. Your brother is 22 and has not been diagnosed with any disorder. You are the idiot. The dude is old enough to stay home or enjoy the fish tacos. Holy moly, your whole family sounds toxic as heck. Your boyfriend is realistic and doesn't want to participate in babying your brother. A lack of diagnosis doesn't necessarily mean a lack of an issue. It sounds like his parents have dropped the ball on this one, either not getting him assessed and getting him help if he needed it, or coddling him and crippling him for adulthood if he didn't. Neither is OP's problem or her boyfriend's place to address. However, I will go with everyone's the idiot. OP shouldn't have asked boyfriend to make extra food for her brother, but it's going too far to say he isn't allowed to bring any food himself. That's no additional work for the boyfriend, so the only reason for him to make that rule is to show his disapproval of the brother in a passive-aggressive, controlling way that honestly sucks. If OP or her parents want to make the guy some chicken tenders, what's the big deal? The deal is the brother isn't even invited. This relationship is doomed. There's no way this dude will get further involved with this family unless the brother gets help. At some point, he'll wonder what the long-term plan is for his brother's care, and the answer is obvious. Stock up on chicken tenders, baby. My guess is he'll bail. My parents were younger when they had me, both 19. They were together until I was 1-ish and then they broke up. They didn't get remarried, so there was no divorce. I also have my mom's last name, which comes up later, so I'm saying it here. My dad met his wife Carol when I was 6, and she was married to him a year later. They also had 4 kids in 4 years, starting a few months after the wedding because Carol is older than my dad and felt her biological clock ticking, apparently. It was all very fast for me. My relationship with Carol is not very close. She's made a lot of effort to take on the role of a third parent and second mom, but I always keep her as just my dad's wife or as someone who's part of the wider family, but is not exactly someone important to me. I have a few reasons for this. She never lets me call her Carol. She pushed for Mom or Mama years ago, and we ended up settling for Mom since first names are a no-no. She's also pushy with her religion and has called me disrespectful for not giving her religion a chance and not attending unless I'm forced to. I don't believe in religion, and I was mostly raised without it. Dad converted for her, but Mom said no to me doing it, and I'm so glad. Carol also acts like we had years to get to know each other before she became my dad's wife, and in reality, it was about a year. The other stuff is she hates my mom and is not afraid to voice that stuff around me. Carol hates that I have Mom's last name and not Dad's. Carol hates the first name my mom chose for me and is implied she was selfish for giving it to me because it's unique and uncommon and not a normal name. She's called my mom white trash, trailer trash, a disgrace as a parent, etc. for the name. She feels like Dad should have named me as his first son. Then she also blames Mom for not encouraging me to use my middle name, which Dad chose and is more of a name Carol likes. She also disagreed with Mom not putting me in sports when I was a lot younger. Carol is big into boys needing sports from a very young age, and my mom never considered that a priority. Carol is so disrespectful about my mom so often. A couple of weeks ago, while I was at my dad's, Carol and I were alone, and she wanted to know why I never treat her like a parent, and what she's done so wrong that I refuse to acknowledge her as any kind of mom to me. I mentioned all of the above, and how much I hate when she gets like that. I told her she couldn't expect to win me over when she crap talks my mom all the time and disrespects me by disrespecting my name. I told her I would never love someone who acts that way. She was hurt, I could tell, but she was also angry, and so was Dad when she told him what I said. They accused me of treating Carol with so much disrespect and harshness. Am I the idiot? So she asked what was wrong, and you told her exactly what, and instead of working on that or just giving up and accepting it will never happen, she decides to double down. Does she really think she has a right to disrespect your mom, to name you whatever she wants to push her religion onto you? Yeah, not the idiot. I'm sorry this has been your reality. The adults failed in their responsibility to give you a loving and supportive home. If you want to work through things with your dad, consider talking with him, giving him your side of the story, and telling him clearly what Carol has done and how that made you feel. I doubt Carol was honest in her retelling of what happened. Be prepared. Your dad may not be open to hearing that he was essentially a jerk who failed to protect you, and that his wife was a total nightmare. So it's up to you what you want to deal with. Just know you're not the problem. None of this is your fault. The adults failed and are continuing to fail. Respect is earned, not a right. My husband and I have an infant son, and he's been 100% formula fed since birth. I was not capable of producing any breast milk, and yes, I am one of the rare times it happens. This is due to medical issues. This was something we knew before pregnancy and came as no surprise. However, I was checked out a few times to confirm both during and after my pregnancy. My sister-in-law, my husband's sister, had her third child a month before I had our son. She mentioned breastfeeding a lot early in the pregnancy, and my husband spoke to her and told her it wouldn't be possible for me, so could she please not speak about it as though I was going to be breastfeeding. Sister-in-law stopped for a while, but later in the pregnancy, made comments that I should be preparing to help milk production because my chest showed no signs of growth at all, and she said, "It could mean you're not producing enough." I told her my husband's statement was still true, and I would appreciate it if she could accept it. After my son was born, she started talking about breastfeeding whenever I was around. I asked other in-laws if she spoke of it as frequently with just them, and they said no. Eventually, everyone was like, "Okay, I think we get it, we don't need to hear more about breastfeeding." So she would bring it up to me directly. I told my husband, and he spoke to her again, and we decided to see her less and only during certain family occasions. This incident happened Saturday at my brother-in-law's 30th birthday. Sister-in-law went straight for me and started to mention breastfeeding again and how I didn't put in the work to overcome my supply issues. She was prepared to keep going on, but I'd had enough, and I told her to shut up about breastfeeding. I told her she was speaking to the wrong audience and wasn't going to be able to fix my lack of supply, and to learn to accept that instead of trying to shame me for not torturing myself so that I could try. I told her to be thankful she found it easy, had no trouble, and accepted that not everyone is the same. She was angry with me for talking to her so harshly, but people were on my side. Only since then has she reached out and told me she was trying to be supportive, and my lack of emotion about it made it seem like I never really cared, and the fact is she doesn't know why. So she was trying to advocate for the best thing for my son, her nephew. And it made me wonder if I was harsh, considering I didn't explain my background to her fully and why this was known. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Advocating for your child? What a presumptuous, insulting thing to do. It's none of her business in the first place what you decide to feed your child. She needs to learn to mind her own business. Is she a lobbyist for big breast or what? Like, why does she care so much? Your sister-in-law sounds insufferable. You don't need to discuss private medical issues with anyone. Not everyone can or wants to breastfeed, and there's no shame in that. She was the idiot to keep going on at you despite being told you weren't breastfeeding and to drop it. It's not her business. She shouldn't be interfering. You're feeding your son. He's happy and healthy. Fed is best. I, 33 male, have two older brothers, Matt, 35, and Frank, 38. Our father passed a few years back, and not long after our mother was diagnosed with early onset dementia. At the time, she was still doing reasonably well and was in a place to make competent choices for herself. She began making plans for what to do when she reached a point where she could no longer do so. That included assigning one of us to legally make choices when she couldn't. Frank lives across the country, so my mom never really considered him. She then spoke to me and Matt separately, just in the abstract stating her wishes. She had a sizable life insurance policy from our father's passing and wanted to use it to have an in-home aid. She doesn't want to go into a nursing home unless there's no other choice. Her policy will pay for this alongside her bills, and she'd also qualify for help from the state. It's very important to her that she gets to stay in her own home. I agreed with this and told her I would do everything I could to make it possible. Matt, however, told her that he felt an in-home aid would be a waste of her money, given she'd likely need a couple to provide round-the-clock care. Given our jobs and our own families, we couldn't be there long every day, and our mom made it clear she didn't want us to let this consume our lives. Though I still planned on visiting daily, even if I couldn't stay long. There were also arguments over mom not wanting to be kept alive by machines as well as organ donation. Given Matt's clear intention to ignore our mother's wishes, she chose me. She did ask Frank and me to keep this quiet. I agreed, though I pointed out it could come out at some point. She insisted he not know, as she didn't want to spend the rest of her time with her facilities intact arguing. Fast forward 3 years and our mother is slowly getting worse. She has a part-time aide now, but I know it'll move up to full-time soon. Matt is trying to insist we put her in an assisted living facility. He kept arguing with me. Eventually I told him that it wasn't his choice. He said, "Mom isn't in a place to decide." I said, "I know, she left me in charge of that," and showed him a copy of the legal documents. He got very quiet and upset. Then later he went to our mom crying, saying how hurt he was. While my mom isn't doing well, she is still somewhat aware of what's happening and is upset that he knows. Frank says I shouldn't have said anything. I felt like I had no choice because Matt would keep arguing with me. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Now please stop with the self-blame. It would come out eventually and your brother is only looking out for his own interests. I find this disgusting. Dementia is not an easy diagnosis for the patient and their family. I applaud you for doing what you know your mom wants done. That isn't always easy to do, and your brother is just being a fly in the ointment, putting that as nicely as I can. I might go so far as to ban your brother's visits if he insists on upsetting a dementia patient. OP, since you have power of attorney, I'd limit Matt's visits to Mom unless you're present. Don't let him trick the dementia patient into signing power of attorney over to him. This is an essential suggestion. My mom made me the power of attorney to make those decisions instead of my older sister. On my mom's deathbed, my sister finally came to visit and immediately started asking her to use her, mom's credit, to pay off sister's debt since she was dying anyway. I wish that were a joke. Mom told her it was up to me and I put my foot down. Your mom picked you for a reason. Don't let her down.